All right, welcome
Yep.
everyone. My name is Mike McQueen, and you're listening to the podcast for the love of libraries. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Sandy Hirsh with us. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.
All right, Dr. Hirsch, could you please give us a little background about yourself? Tell us, your professional background and your connections, just at a surface level of AI. What, let us get to know you a
Yeah,
little bit.
great. Thank you. Yes. Well, I'm currently serving as the Associate Dean for academics in the College of Information Data and Society at San Jose State University. And an additional role I recently took on starting around February of this year is that I'm also serving as a special advisor to our provost on AI curricular initiatives. And that's been a really exciting new
Mm,
development in my work that I've been doing. It's been a really important role for doing some campus-wide reflection and analysis, looking across at what we're doing with AI in terms of curriculum and where we're headed in the future in terms of program development. But prior to serving in this role, I was the director of the School of Information for 10 years. And prior to that, I worked in the Silicon Valley, working in industry, working at HP Labs in research and development, and also at Microsoft and LinkedIn in consumer product development and the user experience space. And prior to that, I was a professor at the University of Arizona. So my career has taken a lot of twists and turns, moving back and forth between academia and R&D and product development, and then back to academic leadership, which has been a lot of fun for me to have those diverse career opportunities.
mm.
A couple of my books, though, I just want to mention that I've published recently. One is I also write a foundational textbook, edit a foundational textbook for the field called Information Services Today, an introduction. And then most recently, I published a book that's also an edited work that's called Library 2035, Imagining the Next Generation of Libraries.
Right. Well, part of the goal I think that that we as librarians have is getting perspectives from different viewpoints, different perspectives and backgrounds, because AI is, threatening to change our whole society, and we all serve patrons that need to like be prepared for the workforce and, adjust to what all that world might look like in the very, very near future. So, like I appreciate your diverse background. That's just amazing. Can you clarify you mentioned working with the provost on that committee. Is that the entire university provost, or is it the library provost, or?
Oh, yeah, thank you, because it can mean different things in different university settings. Actually, this is the provost for academic affairs, so it's for the entire university.
Okay.
So I work with him on that and to advise him on AI curricular initiatives.
Ah, that's great. Well, one of the chapters in my book is on education. I just about finished writing it too, and so this impact that AI is having on education is huge. How many staff over do you oversee? Like how many?
Well, I'm not personally overseeing the staff.
Okay.
I'm really serving more as an advisor. So I'm working across
Ah.
the university to on different types of initiatives. So, for example, he just asked me to do an analysis of looking ahead over the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, what kinds of AI curricular programs are in development across
Mm,
the university, or
mm.
do we anticipate are going to be developed? So, looking at things like that, what kinds of AI courses do we currently offer across the university?
Ah.
And many other kinds of some research-based projects with him as well. So, it's things like that that I've been doing.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. It's really diverse, and it just aligns so well with this need to adapt to AI in education, especially. Um, let's talk about literacy, and one of my chapters is titled "Literacy Reborn." It's like how is AI adapting and changing what we know about literacy, like reading, writing, just information in general. Like, what are your thoughts about the impact that AI is already having and it will have with what literacy is?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a hard question to answer
Yeah,
as well because things are changing so
yeah,
rapidly, and how people are understanding what AI is and can do is also
mm,
evolving, and it's not across the board either. People's, as you know, are talking about AI literacy as well as a new form of literacy that we need to be
yep,
developing, and making sure that we understand what AI is actually doing, and what it can do and what it can't do. So there's that we need to consider and prepare people for in terms of
mm,
understanding some of the ethical implications of using AI as well, but how that impacts our more traditional forms of literacy, consumptions of literacy in terms of writing and reading, I think are some really interesting questions because, and I see this in our university environment as well, in terms of what does that mean to write something these days,
right, right,
um, and how do, because there's so many different inputs that we can use from AI, and what's an author and what does that mean
yeah,
when we're using AI to help us create content, who owns that content and how much of it is you, how much of it's the AI. And it's just it's getting very muddy out there to try to
yep,
figure out what's real, what's authentic, and your own versus and what's accurate versus what's created, or maybe being misrepresentative or misinformation. It's all becoming very challenging
mm.
to identify.
Yeah, the whole world of misinformation. I mean, it's as these tools get more advanced with different modalities, like the ability to create realistic lifelike videos and audio and humans, and it's getting to the point that it's indistinguishable, and you can't, like differentiate often what was created by AI or humans or both, and especially as more and more tools, AI tools get embedded into every software and hardware that we use. Like I think the two aspects that you kind of touched on are like as consumers of literacy, like how is that's changing incredibly fast, and it's becoming harder and harder to differentiate. But then there's that literacy piece of like us learning about what AI is. Two
Right.
two different things, but monumental, impact.
Definitely.
Yeah. How do you, that makes me think of like change. Change is hard for a lot of people to adapt to as we think about like what the world of literacy is changing. It just, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety for people to adapt to things that maybe they're not used to. Uh, what, when you're trying to get someone to adapt to change, like what are some suggestions or thoughts that you have about how to get people to try and adapt?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and there's certainly AI is presenting us with just constant change, a barrage of change every minute, every day. There's just
Hmm.
constantly new developments. And, when I look at what I see just within my own environment, like at the university, I see a range of responses to that. Everything from I don't want to have any part of that to
Hmm.
how can I get more of this and integrate it more into what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing, and how can I learn more? For those who are really reticent about it, I think that it's important to be mindful of like these developments, and sometimes some of these things are just fads and are just coming and going, and it's fine to miss some of those. This
Right.
doesn't feel
Yeah,
like a
you're right.
fad. This
You're
is
right.
feels like this is here to stay, and we can't just put our heads in the sand and pretend
Hmm.
it's going to go away. I don't
Right,
see
right.
that. It's already so embedded and so so just built baked into so many of our everyday tools that we're using that I think it's very hard for us to get away
Mm,
from this. So I don't. So I think that in terms of those who may be more nervous about it, it's I think pursuing some of the opportunities that the lots of different trainings that are out there, knowing that you're not alone. Like, you know, I try to stay up as much as I can, but there's other people who are way more up on things than I am. There's just too much happening too fast. But I think just jumping in and trying some things, it's doesn't usually cost you much to try something
right,
new,
right,
like it
right,
just a
right.
few minutes of time or just a little
Hmm.
bit taking a course. I think those kinds of things, it's just wade in and just try it. I think it's very hard to sit on the sidelines and not and just read about it or to really understand what it means.
Yeah.
I think you really have to give it a little try. And then you're like,
Mm,
oh, okay, now I see how this works. And it's not as scary as I thought. Or maybe it is more scary than I thought as you
yeah.
see some of the
Right.
capabilities that it has. But I think it's really about just giving it a try and just taking small steps.
Yeah, yeah, like hands-on. Um,
Yeah.
like one of your specialties is strategic planning and like what you just said about the role that you're playing on the committee with the provost is evidence to that. Can you talk a little bit about the importance? A lot of librarians have to collaborate, or they should be collaborating with colleagues, with entities in their organization and out in their communities. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of team building and cross collaboration in
Yeah.
terms of connections with AI? Like how what could that look like? I mean, what does it mean? What role does that play?
Yeah, well, I think that with something like AI and a lot of the things that we do in the library field, it's important to be working across different stakeholder groups that bring different things to the table. One of the things I've seen, for example, at my university and also at other universities as well, and that I've been very impressed with, sometimes think that libraries have been sidelined in certain kind of big, important conversations in universities or in their cities or in other environments, but I've noticed that with AI, there's been a really important recognition of the importance of the library's
Mm,
viewpoint as part of the conversation around what is happening with AI around campus, around other environments. And so I've seen that libraries have had a seat at the table in those important conversations, which I think is fantastic. And but I think that with AI, for example, it is important to bring in multiple viewpoints and stakeholders. For example, in the library, um, as they are launching different kinds of AI, maybe tools or support systems of like getting student perspectives, bringing in faculty perspectives, bringing in IT may need to be part of a conversation or
hmm.
something that you're developing. Hearing from multiple viewpoints and engaging in those conversations, I think, is critical because it isn't always a one size fits all either. So having the making sure you're hearing from a humanities professor
Right,
or
right.
it might be very different than hearing from a computer science perspective and the needs that they might have. So
Mm,
having a representation across the board, I think, is important. I think that's where I think teamwork and communication and collaboration are essential for moving
mm.
anything forward, whatever it is. I'm speaking in high generalities at the moment, but I think that working together and across systems, I think, is important.
So let's narrow it down a little. I mean, because I know there's a lot of librarians in all types of libraries that maybe are not feeling like there's a seat for them at the table, like with the people that make decisions and part of that, and they may be thinking like, well, how can I get how can I get them to give me a seat? Because team building and communication, like, what are some specific things that maybe someone could do if they wanted to be part, and they should be. This is the whole heart of why I think AI is providing a great opportunity to strengthen the future of libraries because it's so impactful in our society. So if someone is nervous or like thinking that they just can't get to the table, what can they do? Like, what are some ideas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it takes time to build up the visibility and the understanding of the skills and the knowledge that we bring. And so I think it takes a constant advocacy and raising awareness to ensure that you do get that seat at the table. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I'd say at our university, for example, our president convened an AI advisory committee and as a representative from the library on that for as an example. Our university is the first, I think was the first university to hire an AI librarian. And so I
Okay.
think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really
And
cool. Yeah. Not as
yeah,
in like you didn't hire an actual AI
No,
model,
no.
a human.
I
Right.
guess I hadn't thought about it that way,
Yeah,
but
no, I
yes,
know.
yeah, I could see. No, an
Uh-huh.
actual person
Yes.
with a title that has like AI librarian.
Right,
And
right.
but yeah, so I think that takes time. I think it's about speaking up and raising visibility
Uh,
about the
yep.
important role of the library on these conversations as it relates to literacy, as it relates to student success in a university environment, like as it relates to student success, as
Hmm.
it relates to understanding about content ownership, copyright
Yep.
and authentic as it relates to misinformation or authenticity of the information. I mean, libraries have so many important roles to play in terms of AI in not just
Hmm.
in a university environment, but in their communities as well, in terms of training and helping to interpret AI tools and providing access to some of those because not everybody has access to
Right, right.
all of the tools and that so there's just so many ways important roles that
Mm,
libraries play and so speaking about those making sure that leaders in the work area that they're working in understand that I think is um, essential and
yeah, yeah.
it'll be problematic for those leaders for not having a library representative
Ah,
be part of the conversation. To be honest, it works to their disadvantage
all right. It's a great
to
point.
not have
That
that
voice.
voice exactly at the table.
Yeah, you mentioned that it takes time, and because we were talking about collaboration and relationships are the center of so much. And it when you said that, it reminded me of two things. Like, my nature has always been very assertive, like innovative, like aggressive. Like, we don't have time. Like, this is time is now. Like, don't sit around and wait for stuff to happen. Like, go get it. But that's one extreme. And that kind of backfired me in one school I was at because I was brand new and I like, oh my gosh, I just plastered the walls with innovation and all this new, like, everything's changing and let's all, and it scared some people away, like people that I should have, that I wanted to collaborate and partner with me were put off because it was a little bit too assertive. And so it's a fine line between, being extroverted and finding opportunities to get your seat at the table. But you also can't go to the other extreme, which it concerns me that a lot of librarians like aren't maybe as assertive enough as they can be to get started. But because if you build a lot of strong relationships, that will then you'll get invited, and that's probably why you have worked the magic that you have is because you probably have a lot of good relationships. People know who you are and what you do and what you can bring to the table. Um, so, it's just tricky to be able to get that to want to get the seat at the table first of all, and then to do it in a way that is most effective and doable for you and everyone involved.
I think that's true. I think that it is about building trust and about
Trust.
building up your those relationships, as you were saying. I think those are all really important. I think it's also important to kind of read the room, so to speak, in
Yeah.
terms of identifying what strategies or ways of representing your what you bring to the table will
Mm.
how it'll be best received, and always thinking about it from the standpoint of your leaders and the problems they're facing and how you could help them will
Yeah.
always be a good approach
It's
to
always smart.
it
Oh
is
my gosh,
always a good
it's
approach
critical.
rather than just promoting what you
Hmm.
do,
Your
thinking
agenda.
about how you couch that in a way that will solve somebody's problem
Yeah.
or will resonate, you think will resonate with their point of view, and framing it in those kinds of ways will be probably the most effective.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really well said. And so let's talk a little tiny bit about strategic planning because that's also one of your strengths. A lot of libraries are needing to like create strategic plans. Literally, public libraries definitely have to do this. They have a board that is involved with it. K-12 librarians, their school-wide vision of technology. They're often they have opportunities to be part of that conversation, and then academic libraries too. So like, how what does it look like in academia as far as strategic planning goes, and especially like how libraries could be part of that. We kind of touched on a little bit of it, but is there anything in specific with strategic planning, like the document and the formal organization of vision and goals and all that that all tie in together?
Yeah, you're talking about for the library itself, the
Yes.
strategic,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I'm a huge believer in strategic planning, and I even have in my foundational library and information science textbook, Information Services Today, an introduction. Included a
Oh,
chapter
wow.
for students about strategic planning because I think it's so
Cool.
important. I feel that it's hard to chart a course forward if you don't have a clearly laid out vision for that.
Mm,
And it's also hard to get everybody aligned and moving in the same direction unless you've kind of put it down, on paper or,
yep.
online where you've laid it out. I think that strategic planning is also something that is a living, breathing kind of document, and it's something that isn't just you've just developed a strategic plan, so check, done, shelve that. We don't have to look at that
Right.
anymore. It's something that to be effective, you need to constantly check in on quarterly or, however, whatever timelines you want to do. Certainly minimally
Hmm.
annually, but
Hmm.
presumably more frequently than that. So you can make sure that you're aligning your activities and your priorities, your budget, your time, your limited resources in ways that will move you forward in the direction that you want to go.
See,
Uh,
I love
yeah,
that, but it sounds like a lot of work.
it
I'm
is.
like, I was just thinking like, holy cow, I've got a list of a lot of stuff I got to do today and this week and everything. How do you like, why is that, why is that a good use of your time?
You know what?
I don't want to sound
It is.
lazy, but
No,
it's a
that's a
lot of
fair
work.
question, and
Okay.
and it is a lot of work. I don't want to minimize that.
Yeah.
However, we have scarce resources. All of us have scarce
Mm.
resources. We all have scarce amount of money, time, and attention. So what you want to do is you want to focus your scarce resources in a way that moves you forward, not in a way that you're just randomizing your time
Yep.
or maybe squandering your time. So this is about making an investment
I know
in
that's the
your
word I was thinking of.
future.
Yep. Investment. You're right. I was
It,
wondering that. Yeah.
it's an investment in your future, and uh, so it accomplishes multiple things. One, it helps you to make sure that you're utilizing your scarce resources the most effective and most strategic ways possible. Second, it also is a communication tool. So it is a way to communicate to yourself and to your staff, to your external stakeholders, your community that you serve, where you're headed, what, you
Mm.
know, so if
Hmm.
there's questions, somebody's like, why are you spending all this time and money on blah, blah, blah? Well, it's in our strategic plan.
Yeah.
We
Right.
said we were going to do this and this is
Right.
a priority.
Hmm.
And, so this is why we're choosing to do this. And that's why we can't do
Hmm.
that. So it's a
Right.
vehicle for helping you make some decisions that might otherwise be hard to justify and might
Yep.
feel a little like you're just being off the cuff when you
Right. Right.
actually have a clear roadmap for how you want to move forward. Um, and in order for a strategic plan to be successful, it really needs to be involving lots of different stakeholders in that conversation, both especially at the beginning and also throughout, but especially at the beginning when you're formulating what the strategic plan is and what are some of the strategic priorities and what that vision should look like and what's the mission, what are your values. You need to involve wide conversations if you're doing a SWOT analysis or some other kinds of analysis about, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats, or one of the other tools that you could use. That's when you need to involve lots of different people and
Mm.
ensure you get buy-in and lock in a direction and a vision for that. And
Mm.
then, you'll set that for a few years but you need to check in and you're like, oh, some of it might need to be adjusted because maybe something's changed really
Hmm.
dramatically in the
Hmm.
field and something no longer makes sense anymore. Like a whole funding
Hmm.
mechanism went away. So you can't do that one anymore. So, you have to have some flexibility in
Hmm.
adjusting. That's why you need to check in.
Yeah, like you're I just appreciate everything you just said because you're getting me thinking about there's so many different ways to integrate strategic planning. Most of what you described like tends to gravitate into this like a formal you know thing that you can document and organize it and um, for so many librarians care so much about their programs, about the purpose of what they're doing and everything. And if they miss that piece, then they subject themselves to budget cuts of because people not knowing what's going on and where things are heading and the purpose to it. So by doing like a more formal strategic plan and involving all the stakeholders, it gives their heart and their mission more likeliness to succeed. Um,
I
the other
agree.
thing the other thing it reminds me of too is like on a less formal level, just communicating things that relate to what your vision and goals are for a library program to your leader. It reminds me of like I've been in a handful of different schools in my career, and when I look back at the principals that I went out of my way to constantly like just talk with about what was going on and where I was visioning, things to be heading, just that person alone, the better I communicated with them, the better success I had in the program altogether. And then the principals that I didn't do that with, then suddenly I didn't feel as connected and I didn't have as much strength in the reputation of the program because of that. Um, so it's not always easy if you're working with leaders that that you don't agree with or that you don't get along or that have other, problems. Like you have to be able to look past your differences because if you don't go out of your way to do that, then you risk, just building something that is going to fall apart. Um,
I think that's why it's important to like bring in a wide range of voices into the
Yeah,
process as well, because it also lends credibility to
yeah.
if you are in that scenario that you've consulted with your community and other stakeholders and you're representing what they're telling you. And so that gives you, it's not just you saying this is what it is. It's
Yeah.
like, no, we did a formal process. We did a whole analysis of what's going on in the field across the board.
Mm,
We talked to our constituents. We interviewed the staff. We reviewed where our problem areas are, and we've looked at opportunities, and here's what we found, and that's why we're going in why we're proposing for the strategic plan to go in X, Y, and Z directions. And so it's all
mm,
grounded in
yeah.
this important informed path.
Mm. That's great. And that reminds me too of like I don't know if I ever organized a formal committee to help create the strategic plan for the library, that I worked in, elementary schools and the high school I was at. But but what I did do is I still created the plan and I still like surveyed students and staff and they all got input. The plan was kind of centered on input and direction from everyone indirectly. And then especially my principal and leaders, the other academic leaders in our building. But the other piece that I think that contributed to the library's strategic plan was my involvement in other committees. I was always on the leadership committee for the school, and I always led the tech committee. Well, mostly in my career, I led the tech committee, and so the tie-in with the library's vision and strategic plan with our school-wide other, strategies kind of helped, solidify the vision of the library and everything. I think there's opportunities for a lot of librarians to do that kind of cross participation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's super important.
Okay, let's touch on a couple more things and then we'll let's try to wrap it up here. So many things I want to talk about with you. Um, one of the biggest needs is professional development. So librarians, participating in professional development to learn about what's going on with AI. Let's see, it was spring of 2024, was it? Yeah, spring of 2024 is the first time I saw the Libraries 2.0 conference for about AI. And I think there were like, I want to say 14,000 librarians that were part of that online conference. Um, you were part of the founding of the original Library 2.0 conference, virtual conference. So can you talk a little bit about how that came to be and about those specific AI conferences that have been hosted through it?
Yeah. So it's actually, I started when I started as the director at the School of Information at San Jose State. Uh, it was back in 2010. And one of the very first presentations I gave was on campus. I think it was that fall of 2010. And I met this person. His name is Steve Hargadon,
I
who
interviewed him.
did
Yeah.
you as
Uh-huh.
part of
Already.
this?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Did he tell the story?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
I want to hear
So
your perspective.
he, sorry if it's a repeat.
No, no.
I was my very first presentation, and it was on campus, and it was probably fall 2010, and it was when online education. San Jose State's iSchool had taken a leadership role in converting to exclusively online education all the way back then
Yeah.
and for the MLAS program. And it
Wait,
was
wait, wait, wait. MLAS, what is the, some people may know.
MLIS for the Master in Library and Information Science
Right.
program for
Okay.
the, sorry.
Yep.
And it was, there was a mix of perspectives in the field at that time. There was some people who thought that was great, but a lot of people were very skeptical that you could really learn in a fully online
Mm,
environment. And was that really a valid learning approach? And can you learn that way? And so shortly after I started as the director, and I was reflecting on that and also reflecting on how quickly our field was changing, and I knew it would continue to change rapidly. And I always feel it's important for us to be investing in our own ongoing professional development, and as well as, of course, employers supporting that. But we should own it for ourselves as
Hmm.
individuals and as professionals. And so I had the good fortune of meeting Steve Hargadon for a few minutes, and that one presentation that we happened to be giving presentation event that we were giving presentations at. And out of that, we sparked a conversation that led to the growth and the development, the launch of this Library 2.0 virtual conference series. And for my goals and for the school's involvement in that were a couple fold. One was to showcase how you can learn and have meaningful engagement in online environments
Hmm.
through the Library 2.0 conference series. Another's was to give back and to give people an opportunity for ongoing professional development learning, and that would be free to them. And third was to broaden the reach and the visibility of our school in an internationally, and to build professional community for the global librarians
Mm.
and professionals. So out of that, we developed the Library 2.0 conference. We had very different, it's when we started it, as Steve may have told you, we initially did it as 24-hour day long conference where we
Like
went
a
round the
hackathon.
clock. We went round the clock because we were doing this as a global conference. And so we felt people could be able to present in their own local languages, in
Oh,
their
okay.
own
Yeah, I didn't.
local and time zones. And we figured
Okay.
they'd be reaching people in their own time zones who could
Yeah.
hear them present in their own language that they were comfortable with. And we did it that way for a couple of years. And then before we changed it to this shorter form content, because what happened was that while we were the first, I believe, to do something at the scale that we did it and in the format that we did it with the Library 2.0 conference, there became more and more increasingly more opportunities for people to engage in online environments. And as that became the case, it felt like that long form content was too long and it
Mm.
was too overwhelming for people, even if they could dip in and out when they wanted to. So that's when we evolved it into the 3-hour mini conference format, which has worked really well. And we've been doing it this way for many years. And
Mm.
we typically get probably around 5,000 signups for each of the mini conferences. And usually far fewer people attend in real time, but the recordings are available and for
Hmm.
people to watch later as well
Right,
for
right.
free. And so people can engage in that way. And we know that people libraries will use it for professional development. We've seen, or we've been told that whole library systems will be sit down and watch certain sessions and use it as professional development time. I also know and have been told that some instruct library and information science instructors instruct their students to attend certain sessions or to
Yeah,
attend the
yeah.
conference as a learning opportunity as well. And
Hmm.
then, of course, and anybody could also submit and participate as a presenter and have that opportunity to present to an international audience
Yep.
um, as well.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing attending as a participant. I presented at one as well, and it's just it was really amazing, especially because AI is just taking off so much. So it's just pretty incredible. And I think about how many librarians you guys have impacted over all those years with all those conferences. Like it's pretty remarkable. That leads me to my second last question about advice for new or aspiring librarians. But before I ask you that question, is there something that I sent you ahead of time, a question ahead of time that we didn't touch on that maybe you could that you could touch on? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that um, maybe you want to kind of throw out there?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that you're touching on all of it. I did just want to add one more thing to the Library 2.0 conversation
Oh, yeah.
that I know you mentioned that you joined about a year ago, but we also just had, I don't know if you participated in it in March of this year. March 2025, we did another AI focused Library 2.0 conference. So
Hmm.
I just wanted to mention that as well, because that's was called AI in Libraries, Literacy, Ethics, and Responsible Use. It was excellent. So
Yeah.
for those who want to watch it, the recordings are available.
Well, and I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I would guess that you'll probably do a similar like AI focused, bigger, broader, bigger conference again. I would bet next March as well, because I know there have been multiple smaller like specific AI related topic conferences that you guys have offered in between. So I've seen,
Oh, yes. Steve offers
multiple
he does offer other
like deep dives
with
or something.
yeah, he does with other partners or other
Yeah.
ways, like kind of one day or other kinds of
Yeah.
workshopy things. That I just partner with him on these mini conferences, and we do three a year, and
Oh, okay.
we discuss the topics each year about which we want to do, and so yeah, so it's a little
Okay.
bit different.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you clarified that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, okay. What advice would you have for a new librarian or aspiring librarian? It's really right up your alley.
Yeah, so it gets back to some of the things we've already talked about in terms of advice. I think that it's about being curious and about being proactive in trying new things and learning about AI tools and learning about everything, actually, just keeping up with the latest trends, making sure that you're constantly maintaining that level of curiosity.
Mm,
I think also that embracing of change, I think, is incredibly important. And just the fact of the matter is, things are going to keep changing, and we just can't ignore that. So that's super important to
yes.
embrace change, but also making sure that we maintain some of our ethical principles and our commitment to protecting
Mm,
access, protecting privacy, protecting authorship and content, making sure that we're doing the right things with
yep.
information. And then I think we have a responsibility to continue related to your initial questions related to literacy. I think in terms of building on our own literacy
Mm,
frameworks, our AI literacy, information and data literacy, but also helping others, training others, and
mm,
helping others in those areas as well. And which I think will be a growing area of importance for us moving forward.
mm. Sandy Hirsch, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. How can people find you if they want to reach out? If they want to, do you have any services besides the books that you sell? Like, do you speak and what can you share a little bit about how people can connect with you and what they might be able to work with you on?
Yeah, I'm always happy to speak. I've been speaking a lot about my new book, about the Library 2035, about the future of libraries, but I'm happy to speak on a variety of topics. So I'm always happy to do that. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's
Okay.
a great way to be in touch with me, probably the best way. So
Yep.
just look me up for Sandra Hirsh, no C in my last name, and you'll find me there. So I'm be delighted to connect with you always. I love to engage with folks in the profession. I care a lot and I love to mentor people. So I'm open.